Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we inspire, motivate, and we add value to you from both the life side and the business side. And I'll tell you what, you can never know too much, because the moment you think you know everything is the moment you start regressing in life instead of progressing. And we weren't created to be mediocre. We weren't created to be average. God created us to be unique and distinctive. And this guest that we have this week, I'll tell you what, he's awesome. He's energetic. He's going to bring value. So I definitely want you to just give him a round of applause and welcome him to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Jordan Mendoza, how you doing, man?
Hey, man. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. Anytime I get an opportunity to speak to any audience, it's a blessing. So I appreciate you, brother.
No, man. Well, I know. I'll tell you what. We were on your podcast, had a great conversation, and just loved your energy, loved your vibe, and I thought you could definitely bring some value to our audience. And I know what an amazing person you are, right? You're the Trailblazer. Tell the audience of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, who is Jordan Mendoza, man?
All right. Well, first off, I'm a father of 5, right? Let's start there. So we've got 3 boys and 2 girls. So that in itself is a fun adventure, right? Parenthood, and then when you get into being outnumbered by your kids, that becomes a fun adventure as well. But man, I couldn't do anything that I do if it wasn't for my wife. She's really the person, the strong arm of the law, in this house, because I get to be spending time with you, having a great conversation while she is at a park somewhere, or driving someone somewhere, putting out a fire or a physical fight, and so yeah, man, I always like to start with origin story, whenever I'm getting to know somebody, a new audience, because I think it's important that we remember where we came from, right? And the people that helped influence us to be the people that we are today. So I would love to start there, if you wouldn't mind, Daniel, and just give some context into, who my mom is, man. She was like and still is the biggest influential person in my life. She actually was born with one lung. And when that happens in the 50s, there's a couple things that the doctors told my grandmother. It was, she might live to be 18, and she definitely won't be able to have any kids. Like, that was basically, the set of cards that she was handed. And man, she was a fighter. She kind of took that hand of cards and said, okay, we'll see about this, and she didn't even have to really use oxygen until almost in her 20s. She ended up having 5 boys, which was just crazy. And she lived to be 54 years old, in 2011, late 2011, her body just started to shut down. It was one of those things where her heart really had to overcompensate for a lot of different areas because of having that one lung. And man, her kidney shut down, her heart, went bad. And it was just a matter of months from being in the hospital that she unfortunately passed away. But man, the lessons that I learned from that woman are, you don't have to be a victim of your circumstances. Like, I grew up in poverty, food stamps, free lunches. I had an alcoholic stepdad that was abusive. I mean, I grew up in a lot of these really turmoil-based situations.
Yeah, I want to tell my audience. This is the part where I want to tell them. We always talk about this, right? This is time where I tell you, get out your pen and paper, because Jordan Mendoza is going to drop some value, and he just said something profound, and I don't want you to miss it. So when you write stuff down, ladies and gentlemen, you retain 80% more of what you hear. So take notes, because Jordan's going to drop some wisdom. And I love what you said, Jordan, right? That don't be a victim of your circumstances. Talk to me about that. What do you mean by that? Because I want to hear your perception of that, because so many times, especially right now, I think we hear a lot of people, not to sound inconsiderate, but we're whining when we actually have the power to take control of what the circumstances
100%.
that we are in.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we take a sheet of paper and audience, just picture a sheet of paper, and I'm just going to start listing off things that I experienced from birth to 19, right? So first off, I grew up in a fatherless home with a stepdad who was an abusive alcoholic and a mom with one lung, two other brothers, two other brothers from different fathers, right? So this is a white woman, Irish and Native American, walking around with all these kids of all different colors in the 80s, right? So this is these are some of the things that I had to deal with. My dad, I didn't even meet him until I was 12. Fourth grade, you want to talk about adversity. I got stung by 53 bees in the fourth grade at the end of the year picnic. At 12, during one of our moves from birth to 14, moved 14 times. On one of these moves, I had to take 2 public buses to get to school. On one of the stops, I get falsely arrested and beaten by police. They thought I was a Hispanic runaway at 12. Okay.
Wow.
Fast forward to 19, I get in a car accident 21 years ago today, as we're recording this show, that left me with 52 staples, laser surgery on 2 legs, a cut on my right leg, a fist deep, was told I wouldn't walk again, to making a full recovery in 6 months. So, if you put all of that on paper, I have every reason to be bitter. And I could look at all of these things and say that they happened to me or that they happened for me, right? Because adversity truly does give us strength, if you think about it, because you get to look through a lens that most people won't ever see through.
You know what? I love
those lessons, man.
I love what you said there. The word that stuck out to me, what you said, is bitterness. Man, that's powerful. I want to say I lost my brother to bitterness because he never got over our mom passing away. And I think right now, somebody listening to this episode, they're drowning in bitterness and they don't see the light because, of course, bitterness, it distorts your perspective of what reality is. How, from your experience, you chose to not be a victim of the circumstances, but talk to us about this. How can bitterness really hinder somebody in just advancing in life? And if you're that entrepreneur, how can it really just impact your business to the wrong way, right? Just in the wrong, it really hinders from you to grow.
I can tell you a real life example, like me, like when my mom passed away, for 6 months, I don't even remember going and driving to work and going, you know what I'm saying? It was such a blur because I didn't know what to do. Like this, to put it into the context, my mom was my best friend. I literally would talk to her 2 or 3 times a day. So you go to that, to not speaking to her ever again, for 3 months, and then she passes away. Like, that's going to rock your world. I don't care who you are, right? Even if I would have talked to her twice a year, it would have rocked my world because that's your mom, right? And this is a woman that I had so much respect for all the things that she did to put food on the table, like going to the dog races, going to bingo, trying to win money. She had the side hustles before they even existed, and I look at that and I'm like, man, people always talk about like, there's not a way to make money. I'm like, if she could do that in the 80s and 90s, like, you can figure out a way to make money. It's just that you don't want to, right? You don't want to take the action because it's comfortable is a great feeling, right? Yes. I mean, everybody would agree when we're comfortable, it feels really great. But if you don't move, there's no way you can create the momentum that you need to get whatever it is that you want to go after.
Wow. That's a boom moment, right? You got to write that down. Comfortable is a great feeling, but it's going to hinder your progress. It's going to hinder who God created you to be. So let's I want to stay on this a little bit because I want to take it into the entrepreneurship and add some value to that segment of our audiences. You saw your mom go through these things and it made you who you are today. There's a big part of her and you. What were the 2 big lessons that you say that Jordan Mendoza learned from his mother that now, being a successful podcaster, being a successful entrepreneur, what are 2 things that you didn't see back then that you're like, wow, I learned this from my mom?
Man, there's countless things, that I learned from her. I think her ability to have conversations with anyone, Literally, it didn't matter if somebody called her on the phone, that they were going to be on the phone with her for 30 minutes. Like, she just had that connection with humans and the ability to communicate. And I picked that up from her. She would tell me, like, I don't think you've ever stopped talking since you were born. I got a lot of that from her example, because she was like that. She was such a people person, so that ability, but not only the communication piece, but just to have kindness and joy. She was just so, if you didn't know the resume that she had, like, you just wouldn't know it, because she didn't show it. Even with an oxygen tank that she's dragging around, she's happy, she's smiling, she's very vibrant. And so I learned that it's okay to live your life to the fullest. It's okay to be yourself. She was never afraid. She'd be very comfortable embarrassing us kids, but she would never be embarrassed for herself, because she didn't care. She didn't care about people's opinions. And that, man, if that's a big unlock, folks. If you can get to a point to where you could care less about what anyone else thinks about you, you're just going to live your life, man. That's a big unlock in life.
So your mom, she leaves us. You go in and you become this young adult. You do amazing in sales. I know a little bit about your story, and then the point comes where you're like, I wanna do something more. Why in the heck would you want to leave a job that you were doing good at? You were comfortable, like you said, making some good money, good salary, and then all of a sudden you said, I want to be my own owner. I want to be an entrepreneur. What flipped in your mind? Because there's so many people out there that have these ideas and they don't act upon them, and they're scared. And you were doing great. It's not like you were making. It's not because of the revenue, the money that you are making, your salary. Not even revenue, just the salary. But what started in Jordan? That way somebody can understand. Maybe they're feeling this and they're not. They're like, man, I'm making good income. I've been in my job for a decade, but it's not fulfilling anymore. Kind of tell us, what were some of the emotions that you went through, and then when the entrepreneurship idea came up for you?
Yeah, man. Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll tell the audience, it definitely didn't happen overnight. I've really been an entrepreneur in my DNA since I was a kid. Like, I can remember, we were so poor that if I wanted to candy, they couldn't give me money. So I would literally go door to door and knock on people's doors and say, hey, can I have your cans? Because where I grew up in Oregon, you'd get a 5-cent deposit. So I knew if I went and got 5 cans, I could go buy some candy. I actually played baseball and soccer for 10, 12 years each. And I enjoyed fundraising more than playing. I enjoyed going out and selling the candy bars, and doing that, because I just enjoy people. I've always been, that people person. And I've always enjoyed sales, the communication part, the building relationship, looking people in the eyes, getting people's perspective to change. I've always loved that ever since I was a little kid. And so, I told you I didn't meet my dad till I was 12. Well, when I did meet him, I found out that he owned his own landscaping business, and he had that at that point for over 15 years when I had met him. And so now, he's had this business over 40 years. The guy has never ran an ad in the paper. He's got black and white business cards, and his business literally has been built all based off word of mouth. And so from 12 to about 22, every summer I would fly out to DC and I would do landscaping, and I would literally be out there and digging in the dirt and mulching and transplanting. And, as I got older and got better, right? Because if you put in the reps, you start to get better at things. It sucked doing landscaping. You're taking a guy that loves talking and he gets to talk to nobody, right? I'm talking to the plants, to the trees, right? So you have to figure out, like, how do you keep yourself going and motivated? And so I actually end up, for my dad over the years, running crews and they didn't speak English. So I had to learn Spanish, right? Because I had to figure out, okay, how do you say grass? How do you say dirt? How do I tell them we need to move faster? How do I do this? And so, there's a guy from Argentina, from Ecuador, from Mexico, and I'm literally leading this crew, and we're doing 35 houses a day, And so I got to see the operations of a business, right? As the son of a business owner, I got to have the experience as a kid selling stuff. I mean, I sold baseball cards and sneakers, and I still do that to this day. You see the collectibles behind me. I still have a passion for that. So I think
Yeah.
that it's always been there. I had to figure out what it was where I could actually make an impact in the world, and that journey began in 2019 when I got a goal from my former company that I was at just 15 years ago. 90 days ago, I was there for 15 years. And they asked me to find a social media platform that I could, teach and train and educate, and our employees can engage with it. And I found LinkedIn. And so I started creating content. I think I had about 7,000 followers or connections in April of 2019. And now you fast forward, we're April 2021, audience of over 60,000 on the platform. It's added so much value to my business. It gave me the confidence to create a podcast, 14 months ago, which is now has an audience in 54 countries. You were just on, Daniel. It gave me the confidence to start putting myself out there and taking some of the things that I taught in leadership programs and putting it out to an audience and trying to add value to the world. And that enabled me to really see where my value was. And I realized that I can't have as large of an impact as I want on people if I'm in a corporate environment. Because when I bring ideas, it's like, okay, we'll put it on the list. If I bring an idea to my own head today, I go and activate it. It's happening. And I may fail, but I'm going to learn, brother. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about. It's about taking action.
I love what you said, though. I love what you said. So many people, we're going through these situations. We're going through these scenarios, these seasons in our life. Listen to what Jordan said. Jordan said that it goes back. You have something in you that you don't even realize you have because you're so bitter. You're not seeing through the lens of possibilities. You're not seeing through the lens of blessings because you're so bitter for something that happened 10, 20 years ago. It's time to let that go. And what Jordan is saying is that when he started as a kid, he loved baseball, but he loved selling the candies more. He learned how to sell. And then he went out with his dad and he learned a little bit about leadership and learned about communications even more and what he did with his mom. And next thing you know, he learned Spanish because he had to. And so many of us, we don't want to get out of that comfortable feeling, like he said, comfortable feeling. And I'll put that in quotations because it's time you get out of that uncomfortable, right? It's time to get uncomfortable. Because when you get uncomfortable, you start to become the person that you were destined to be. And if you could look at back at what Jordan has just been saying, he could have played the victim. He didn't. His mom could have played the victim. She didn't. She still went out there and did what she had to do. She had her side hustle, whether it was doing bingo, whatever else Jordan said. But the thing is, so many people nowadays, Jordan, they don't want to be resourceful. So I want to challenge my audience right now. Look at what you have in front of you. You have more opportunities and possibilities in front of you, and you have more inside of you, more skill set than you realize. But you have to stop focusing and playing the victim, like Jordan is saying. You have to stop focusing on the bitterness and stop being angry at something that happened to you or something that someone did to you. It's time to let that crap go because I can say from experience, I've seen my own brother Junior that passed away because he never let go of that bitterness and he carried it from the age of 18 up to the age that he died over 40 something years old. And it's sad when you see somebody go through that. So let me ask you this, Jordan. If somebody out there right now, they're having an issue letting go of that bitterness right now. I want you to speak into that mic and I want you to speak from your heart and talk to them. How is that hindering them? And give them one step that they can take to just start releasing that bitterness from their life, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I would love to share a quote that we put on the screen in one of the leadership sessions that I taught. And bitterness is like anger, right? They're very, very similar. It's you're holding on to something very deeply. And what the quote says is that being angry is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. So when you're angry, when you're holding this in, you're literally killing yourself because you're not able to move forward. And without momentum, right, you can't create any consistency that will turn into habits that will turn into results over time, because bitterness keeps you stuck. It keeps you stagnant, and you talked about being uncomfortable a minute ago. And I was at church, and we had a guest pastor from Dallas, and man, he said something to me that is always stuck with me around stability and instability. And he says that, in order to create stability, you actually have to be unstable. Instability, creates stability, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So if you're always hoping to just be on firm ground, you're never going to learn enough that when something actually happens, that you can overcome it. And so if you think about your life, if you think about things that have happened to you, you've got to really reevaluate and reframe the mindset that you have about that experience and say, what lessons can I extract from this experience that can help me out? And, the one thing that I've seen, Daniel, is that when I actually take those and I share them with other people, now it just becomes a math game. And all it does is multiply the effect that you can have on others. When we start to share our story, man, it's such a big impact.
Wow. Did you hear what he said? Bitterness is kind of equivalent to anger. So ask yourself this: holding on to that bitterness, holding on to that anger, is it serving you? Because just the way the quote he read, how it just said, drinking that is like putting poison in your own body, hoping the other person dies. And we don't realize when we hang on to this anger, to this bitterness, Jordan, that we're really killing ourselves in the inside. And we don't see that because we're so blinded by the anger. And I can tell you, because when I was younger, I had anger issues. So I thank you for that quote. That was good stuff there, man. Let's shift a little bit here. So you learn business, you do a phenomenal on LinkedIn, and then you start your entrepreneur journey. What in the heck is the final thing that said, hey, it's time to do this? Because I've been thinking about it, because so many people, they don't act because of fear. They don't act because they just don't have the confidence in themselves, right? They want everything to be stable, like you said. And the truth is that as an entrepreneur at any business, there's going to be instability. That's what's going to help you grow and become more resourceful. So what was the final thing that pushed you over the edge? And then you make this amazing idea that I'm going to do it. And then you start doing it. Talk to us about that moment in your life.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of things I think that push you over the edge. I think as humans, whenever we don't feel valued, that's a big one, and there were a couple things that happened in the corporate organization where I felt severely undervalued. One of them was getting 85% of my bonus when I feel like I over delivered, so there was a couple of things like that. But honestly, it's not really more negatively focused like what they did or anything like that. It was really more of experiencing the feeling of having profound impact in people's lives, and knowing that you're just a vehicle, right? I'm just the mouthpiece. I'm the person that's delivering the message. But man, when I taught this leadership program for the last 3 years, it was a 6-month program. It was predicated on Myers-Briggs. So I had to get certified in Myers-Briggs in order to even facilitate the program. And we dove into books like Emotional Intelligence 2.0 and Strengths Finders 2.0. And we put people through assessments, and we analyzed their conflict style and taught them how to be better leaders. And man, when you go through programs like that, and each of these people, Daniel, I coached one-on-one for the year. And so the relationships that you built by the end of that 6 months, you have this nice dinner and people are celebrating graduating this program, and they tell you how their life has changed, not just in business, but their personal lives. And man,
Yeah.
just to realize that, in a 6-month period that I can, be a part of some type of impact like that. I knew that I needed to do that at scale. I needed to be able to do that on my own so that I could reach and impact more people. And so that's really what it was for me. It's like my, passion really truly met my purpose. And I said, I have got to go blaze my own trail. I mean, I'd been building this brand for 14 months of the show, and, built this audience. And, how beautiful was it to be able to say, you know what, I'm actually going out to blaze my own trail. I'm going to be that trailblazer. And if you look at that picture behind me, I think I told you the story about that, when you were on the episode or off air, but that's a gift from my old team. And they knew that I needed to spread my wings and fly, and so to be able to do that. And now, my company is called Blaze Your Own Trail Consulting. I've got the Blaze Your Own Trail Mastermind. I do challenges that are, surrounded by that name. And, to be from a city like Portland, who my favorite team is the Trailblazers, and to be able to combine the love of that with the name of my business and my show and everything, it's amazing,
Yeah,
and
man.
there's no better freedom to have everything fall on you, right? The wins are going to fall on me, the losses are going to fall on me, but being okay with that and knowing that it's never really truly a loss unless you stay there, right? If you get back up and the next day and you dust yourself off, it really isn't a loss. It's a lesson,
Yes, man,
and
I
we
love
got to
what you're
think
saying.
about that,
No, I love what you're saying, because somebody, like, just think about what Jordan just said. Maybe you haven't been conducting leadership trainings in your business where you work at it, at the job you have, it's your career, but Jordan took what he had. So look in your hand and look at what you have right now that you can definitely go out there and help other people. Because nothing's worse than, I know exactly what you're saying, Jordan, because nothing's worse than feeling undervalued. And you give the other people permission on how to treat you. Let me say it again. You, as an individual, as a person, as a human being, you give people permission on how to treat you. You train them, right? We train other people how to treat us. And that flavor that left in his mouth, that 85%, I wanted 100 of my bonus, I deserved it. And he probably did. But he took what he had that he learned there in leadership development and training, and now he monetized it and it became a business. And he acted, he took action. So what do you have in your arsenal? What do you have in your experience bank that you don't even realize because you're so looking at what you don't have? Focus on what you do have. So Jordan, man, I love that. So right, so you make the decision to go into business. You're doing business right now. Tell us a part of your journey when you're in that transition, and then you lost your confidence. And how did you regain your confidence? And what did you learn about yourself in that season?
Man, so one thing I would love to share before I answer that question is, I don't want the audience to get it twisted. Like I just took these things and I just went out and I just started making a bunch of money, because that's not how the story went, right? 2019, when I started getting a lot of messages and people are like, wow, can you help with this? Do you do this? I'll tell you this, I did a lot of free stuff. I mean, all of it in 2019 I didn't charge anything. But I got so many lessons and I became a practitioner at what I was doing. Okay. Because when I look at 2020, I started getting some paid work, right? And it wasn't great, but it was more. And it definitely was more than I got in 2019. And now I look at 2021 when I decided to launch, I've now can look at the earnings that I had in 2020 and say that I've already 5x what I earned then, right? But again, it was putting in the reps daily, working with people, actually helping people get results, becoming a practitioner. Okay, because that's really an important lesson, and I wanted to share that because, again, if you've got some skill sets, go put them to use, go put them to practice. And then once you get good at it, and when you can actually show that you can fill a gap in the marketplace, then that's when you can start monetizing.
You know what? When you said that, this is what comes to mind is like Dak Prescott, right? He wasn't the number one pick, but he played with the Dallas Cowboys and he earned his stripes. And now he got rewarded 3 or 4 years later with a multi-million-dollar contract. And so many of us, we come into business expecting that we're going to get that $1 million contract, and we don't. And then we quit after 6 months, or we quit within the first year. 90%, that's right, 90% of entrepreneurs and small businesses fail. And I love the way you just recapped that, right? Because you actually do have to give some stuff away for free to get those reps in. And it's like myself, when I first started speaking, I would go speak at lunches, at lunch and learns, and I would go speak at different events that said, hey, well, we can't pay you what you want, but we'll give you this. And it's like, okay, well, right. You either your pride swells up, your ego swells up, and you don't take what they give you. But I said, no, right? No, I'm getting my reps in. I'm getting my reps in. And before you know it, you're training the United States Air Force. And then next thing you know, you got that footage, it opens up more doors. So
Yep.
just know that every small step you take, it's going to elevate you. So you're doing your free stuff, you're growing. And where on your journey, going back to the question, did you like, okay, what did I get myself into? Maybe I shouldn't have done this. And what did you learn about yourself for that when you lost your confidence?
Yeah. So, I think it really happened when my first paid gig was actually a professional development gig for my church. It was actually to put 35 of their staff through Myers-Briggs, and I had just gotten certified. I was super excited about this. This was going to be my first, paid consulting gig, and I go do it, and it ends up being fruitful, and it ends up adding value to them. And ever since, I do disc training, on Sundays in a leadership pipeline class to really show people how they're wired, right? How God wired them so that they can use their abilities to find out where to serve, right? And find out, what their gifts are essentially. And so, but I think after that, how sometimes when you get something new, and you want something new, you're all excited about it. And you're like, man, this is gonna be the best thing since sliced bread. You go and do it. And then all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what happened. It's like that took a nosedive. But, as the LinkedIn stuff really started to take off. And I'm gonna tell you, it really was a mentor of mine. His name's Brian Schulman, and he's the guy that got my confidence back, right? Because I would love to say, yeah, I just one day woke up and I was super confident, right? Because that'd be the nice way to say it. But no, I saw what he was doing on the platform, and this guy's so positive. He does a thing called What's Good Wednesday, and it's all about sharing what's good on Wednesday. And he does a thing called Shout Out Saturday, where you just shout out somebody that you want to give a shout out for. Maybe they bought you a coffee or they gave you a call when you needed it, something positive. And I said, man, this guy, like, I really enjoy this type of content. I feel like I could do something like this. Let me reach out. So I connected. We got on a FaceTime call. And I started telling him about some of the skill sets. I'm like, hey, I do this, I do sales training, I do this. And he's like, man, you need to start showing up on video. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you need to start putting videos. I was like, you're going to have a way bigger brand than me. And I'm like, seriously? And he made a little deposit that day that he may not know, but he made a deposit in me that for some reason, I believe the guy. I was like, man, maybe I can have a bigger brand than him. And at the point, I think I was, 7,000 connections on the platform, didn't know what the heck I was doing, hadn't produced any content yet, wasn't really showing up. And then I fast forward to 2 years later, my audience is larger than his now. My brand is bigger than his, but he deposited that seed, and he told me that I could do it. And the other thing that he told me I'll never forget is he said, your goal should only be to inspire one person a day. Because if you can inspire one person a day, that's 365 people a year, and you multiply that, and the impact is so profound. So when I started thinking about that, and like not how many views my video is going to get, or, like actually just focus on impacting that one, just finding that one person. And so, man, that was where the confidence shift was for me.
That's amazing, because so many times we don't realize that we need to reach out for help. And I love the fact that you humbled yourself and God was able to guide you to the right person, because we all need some type of mentorship. We all need a coach. And so many times we try to do it on our own and we try to figure it out. And then we get stuck and we don't realize that you don't know what you don't know. I always say that you don't know what you don't know. And the fact that Brian did a deposit in you, and look at you now, right? Now you're impacting. And the beautiful thing about that is now you're going to be able to go and do that deposit and reciprocate that into somebody else's. A younger version of Jordan coming up and say, hey, I was where you're at. I can help you. Let's do this. And that's just amazing. So let me ask you this. What makes Jordan Mendoza distinctive? What makes you unique? What is the uniqueness about you, my friend?
I would say, relationships. I'm the friend that like keeps up with all the friends, from high school. And when I come to town, I get everybody together, like I've just always been that person. So I have like friends like, 20, 25-year old friends because of that, you know. And so like I remember when I took an emotional intelligence assessment, I got the results and I started reading through it, and it was, you know, it was like self-awareness, I scored pretty well, you know, self-management, I scored pretty well, social management, I scored pretty well, a little bit I need to work on, and the relationship management, it tanked. And I remember reading this and I went to the lady, like the instructor, and I was like, I think this like assessment is broken. Like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, there's no way I could score this low on this. And then she said, okay, tell me more. Like, tell me, like, how do you manage relate? Like, tell me a little bit about it. And I started explaining it to her, and she said, I'm pretty sure that you do this so naturally and instinctively that you don't look at it as a strength, or you don't see value in it for yourself. And so when you took this assessment and you scored yourself, you didn't score yourself very highly. And I said, it was like, you know, the light bulb went off. And I was like, man, it makes perfect sense. And I say this because there's going to be someone that listens to this and maybe writes down that resource, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and takes the assessment and gets some results that they didn't expect. But now you can listen back and say, okay, maybe I'm thinking about this a little differently. Did I do I not see the value in it myself? So I wanted to share that, because sometimes our perspective isn't always the right one. Okay. It's not always the wrong one either, but it might be different. You know, we might need to get someone else's opinion or feedback on something.
So let me ask you this. You've been doing this now for some time. What's one of the biggest rewards in one of your clients get? What's the biggest result that you've seen? Are like, wow, I had an impact on that person's life. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, just having clients see success, you know, I mean, that's so impactful. I had a couple clients that are actually, you know, engaged, and they're going to get married in October. And both of them, you know, he's got a sales job and she has, you know, administrative job, but they both want to be entrepreneurs full time. And so they came to me, and, you know, they found me, I think, on LinkedIn or Clubhouse, and we connected, and they had just, you know, wanted to find out about the services I offer. And so they took my 12-week LinkedIn coaching program. So I literally, the last 90 days I spent with them, and it's, you know, one-on-one calls, and then they get homework, and we meet every single week. And man, to see the transformation in their confidence. I mean, we're talking about a guy who wouldn't ever show up on camera, like didn't like social media. And now the guy is building relationships. He's making impact off of what the things that he's talking about with mindset and nutrition, you know, and taking care of yourself and building positive routines. And he's got a program now that he's monetized and he's actually adding revenue to his new business with. And she's got the same thing. She was a victim of domestic violence. And so she's actually creating a program to help women go from feeling worthless to feeling worthy. And we literally built that a 30, a 60, a 90-day program. And now she's monetized that. So, you know, just seeing things taken from conception to reality, that's something that I'm able to do for clients. And then to see that, and for them to get traction and build their audience, they said it's went up 100x.
Wow.
Right. The messages they get, the connection requests they've got have gone up 10x, 20x.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned LinkedIn like 3 or 4 times during this episode. So if you have an entrepreneur and you're like, I don't want to do LinkedIn. You know, I've been on Facebook, I've been on Twitter, IG, right? Everybody talks about Instagram because it's connected to Clubhouse. But what are 2 words of wisdom that somebody should be doing on LinkedIn? Maybe you have a LinkedIn account, it hasn't been growing. What are 2 words of advice, 2 words of wisdom that you would say that the audience could take away with that, Jordan?
Yeah, the first piece of advice I would say is take a look at your profile, your actual about summary, and read over it and answer this question. Does this sound like a resume, or does this sound like I'm giving context into who I am, like deep level context and about my expertise? Okay. And so my second piece of advice is if you answer that it does sound like a resume, I would get out a Word document or a blank document, and I would really think about who you are, not from a business lens, not with the suit on and your tie and all the fancy credentials that you have, but who are you? you know, like, and actually feel free, go on my LinkedIn profile and read how mine's written. Now, you only have to give as much detail as you want. Like, I never want anyone to share something that they don't want to share, if that makes sense. So
Yes.
only share what you want. I'm super comfortable being vulnerable because I know that it's going to impact more people. Okay, so if you go and read mine, it talks about growing up with a mom with one lung, and the three pivotal moments in my life: being stung by bees, being beaten by police, and being in a car accident, and the fourth one, jumping into full-time entrepreneurship. So I get really real because I want people to know who I am.
Yes.
Because when they jump on a Zoom call with me, they're getting the guy that wrote that stuff. They're not getting the MBTI certification and all, you know, they're going to get that as a bonus, but they're going to get the guy that's lived through adversity and has gotten back up time after time after time and has decided to leave a 15-year career to go blaze his own trail, and someone that's not afraid to take risks and is going to be there by your side and hold you accountable to get the results that you want. So that's what they're going to get through what they read, but also when they actually meet me.
Man, I love that. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to go look at your bio. I would say look at all your bios. Is it a resume, or is it really something who you are? And I love that because I think so many times, I just did a training this morning and I was talking about so many times we focus on, we lead with facts, and people don't connect with facts. They want to know, like, hey, well, tell me a little bit about you, or tell me the results I'm going to get. Because it's when they first meet you, they don't care. They don't care what you do. What they want to know is, can you help me? And so many times we leave with the fact that, like you said, I'm MTA certified, I'm this, I'm that. No, hey, I'm Daniel Gomez and I love people. And I'm pretty sure I can help you get the results that you're after. It's a totally different approach, but I love what you're saying, because so many times when you lead with that authenticity and you say, I know what it's like to struggle because I struggled myself. I know what it's like because I've been there. I've been where I ate cereal with water, and they can relate with real stuff because everybody goes through struggles. But if we paint a perfect picture, guess what? It kind of might deflect. It does the exact reverse of what you wanted it to, because it's too perfect and like, well, I can't associate. I'm not connecting with this person. So I love that you said that. So let me ask you this: as we come to the end of the show, what is a scripture or a quote that you stand on during times of adversity there, Jordan?
Yeah, so actually I wrote a quote in 2019, and when I wrote it at the time, didn't realize how much I would need it in 2020. And I hope that it impacts your audience in 2021. And what it said was, the struggle might be real, but the good news is that every struggle has a free gift called a lesson.
Ooh, I love that. Say it again, man. That's a good one.
Yeah, the struggle might be real, but the good news is that every struggle has a free gift called a lesson.
Boom, baby. You hear that? Every struggle has a free gift called a lesson. And if you're going through that struggle and you're not learning the lesson, I hate to tell you, but more than likely you're going to go through that struggle again. And you're going to go through that struggle again until you learn the lesson that the world, that the universe, that God is trying to teach you. So ask yourself, am I tired of going around this mountain? Because I want to learn the lesson. Man, Jordan, this is a great time. How do we get a hold of you? How does somebody get a hold of Jordan Mendoza if they want to work with you or just kind of learn more about what you offer, who you are? How do we get a hold of you, my friend?
Yeah, so you can find me on social. I mean, you can look up Blaze Your Own Trail podcast. It's on all the platforms out there. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Jordan Mendoza, Instagram at Jordan J Mendoza, and I'll make sure to get you. I'll get Daniel everything and link it in the show. And yeah, reach out anytime. You know, if it's just a question that you have, if you want to connect, if you want advice, I'm always happy to help. I'm a big believer in adding as much value as I can. So.
Man, well, thank you for being here. We loved having you. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to recap this episode a little bit and say, stop being a victim of your circumstances. Jordan opened up with that. And as he went through life, he realized that he was being prepared for his greatness, for his excellence right now. And even though it wasn't easy, he never allowed his circumstances and situations to control him. When something didn't go his way, he didn't get his bonus. He didn't get mad. He took action. So stop getting mad and take action and start creating the life that you want, that you desire. Because that's what Jordan did. He was one that took action. And next thing you know, listen to what he said. He humbled himself. He gave his services. He served his community. He served people. He served LinkedIn. And the first trainings he did were at no cost. But then as he started learning and became that practitioner, like he said, he learned what he needed to do and he perfected his craft. Is the fact that you haven't perfected your craft keeping your business from growing? Is the fact that you're complaining and not perfecting yourself keeping you and your life from moving forward? These are questions you really need to ask yourself and be real with you. Because like Jordan said, sometimes you have to be vulnerable as you write your LinkedIn profile. And we can live life behind a facade or whoever we pretend to be. But if who you pretend to be is not the real you, you're never going to achieve that greatness, that love, that level of success that you deserve. So this is Daniel Gomez. I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us this week on this episode. I think it was real impactful. And if you're stuck in life or business, we definitely want you to reach out to us in our Shield of Faith coaching. Go to www.danielgomezglobal.com. That's danielgomezglobal.com. And set up your complimentary free assessment there on our website. And also, I want to bless you with a complimentary discovery session because we want to help you. You're not by yourself, and there's always out there someone to help you. So definitely, that's a wrap for this week's episode. We definitely want to see you here next week on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen.
This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to danielgomezinspires.com and get your copy today. That's danielgomezinspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.